Good afternoon, councillors, members of the public, welcome along. I declare this meeting open. Just under announcements, ladies and gentlemen, as you may be fully aware, I hope you are aware anyway, there's an election on this Saturday and 6 of our current councillors are retiring, in inverted commas, which means their term has come to an end. And I just want to take the opportunity of thanking all of those retiring councillors. Thank you very, very much for everything you've done during your term as councillor. Particularly, I want to mention Councillor Kelly. For the last 2 years, he's been my deputy mayor. He's done an outstanding job, and I really appreciate your work. So thank you very much, Councillor Kelly. Councillor Prosser has decided not to seek re-election, so he's going to become a wanderer. We wish you safe and happy journeys, Councillor Prosser, to you and your lovely young lady. Good health, and thank you so much for your time on council as well. And to each of the others, Councillor McNeil is on leave. He's trundling down canals in England somewhere this week. Thank you very much for all your contributions. They've been significant, and I wish you well this Saturday night. Councillors, are there any declarations of interest in addition to Councillor Prosser's impartiality interest?
I don't think I need to do that because it's not our property or my partner's property. So.
Okay, public question time. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councillors. 3 questions. 1, which streets in the city of Bunbury will be provided with new or replacement footpaths or dual use paths in the 2015-16 financial year? 2, how much was allocated to new and refurbished footpaths in the 2015-16 budget? And 3, with respect to the additional big swamp plan being considered at tonight's meeting, what is the anticipated cost of fully implementing that plan?
Thank you, Mr. Smith. In response to question 1, as you can well imagine, there's a bit of research involved in that, so I'm taking that on board as correspondence. Question 2, we will also respond to you in correspondence to respond to your question on budgeted amounts for new and refurbished footpaths and cycle paths, etc. And question 3, that information is actually within tonight's agenda. Thank you. Confirmation of the previous minutes. I'm prepared to move confirmation. Councillor Giles, Councillor Cook, all in favour. Councillor Prosser, are you voting? Please do. Thank you. That's carried unanimously. The advisory committee meeting. Someone prepared to move the youth. Councillor McCleary, Councillor McGuell, all in favour. That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Petitions, Councillor Steele.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To add to the Beach Road rezoning objections, we have another 301 signatures to add to the petition that we already previously.
Okay, so we'll refer that to the same petition previously. Thank you. So Councillor Steele's moving that. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Giles, all in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to clarify before I invite Council to vote on the deputations tonight. With that item on 10.2.3, which deals with that particular petition, if you examine the agenda, we're only dealing with referring the petition as part of the submissions dealing with that particular lot. We are not dealing with the disposal of that lot tonight. We are not dealing with the disposal of that lot tonight. That is very clear in the agenda. However, I do understand there has been some confusion about that. And we have received 3 requests for deputations on that particular matter. So I'm going to put to the council approval for those deputations to occur. But bear in mind, we are not dealing with the disposal of that land tonight. That will be dealt with, I've been advised, it'll be dealt with in 4 weeks' time, because there has been a number of submissions and our officers need to consider all those submissions to advise the council what those submissions entail. So I hope that clarifies the position, and I don't know how there was a misinterpretation that we'd be dealing with that disposal of land tonight. So if there are any of you who don't wish to make a deputation on that tonight, let me know. So I have a request from Mrs. Jenkins. Do you still wish to make a deputation?
It's Miss Jenkins, thanks, sir. No, I prefer to actually wait and speak to
Okay.
the people who are going to make the decision.
Mr. Morgan?
Mr. Mayor, yes, I think I would like to speak if I may.
Okay. Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Okay. So dealing with those requests, 10.2.3, those who agree with Mr. Morgan making a deputation, please indicate. Those against, that's approved. Those who agree with Mr. Smith making a deputation, please indicate. Those who don't, that's approved. We also have a request from Matthew and Sonia Lowe to present on item 10.4.2. Are you in the audience?
Yes.
Yep, okay. Councillors, please indicate your agreement with that. Okay, thank you, that's approved. So what we're going to do is when we get to those items, I'll invite you up prior to the matter being considered by council, and you have 5 minutes to speak for or against your particular item. So councillors, at the moment we have 10.2.3 coming out and 10.4.2 coming out. Are there any other items that councillors wish to discuss? Can I have someone move the balance? Councillor Jones, Councillor Cook, all in favour? That's carried unanimously. So we go to 10.2.3. Mr. Morgan? You have 5 minutes, Mr. Morgan, and if you can keep your comments to the actual matter, which is the council acknowledge the petition, note the petition will be considered as a submission to the consultation process for the proposed rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Yes, I'll keep my comments fairly brief. And what I'd like to briefly discuss is the process in which the council has gone through to get to the point where we have now in terms of the public consultation. So may I speak on that issue?
I'll allow you some freeway there, Mr. Morgan.
Thank you. It's certainly relevant to the information that council has and the public response that I think it probably doesn't have as a formal process at this stage. In February, the council resolved, and I'm sure with all good faith, that the CEO consult with surrounding residents and property owners about the potential rezoning. Indeed, a very limited number of surrounding properties covering a very small area were invited to attend that meeting. Now, that meeting on the 9th of April did take place at 5:30 in the evening. I repeat, 5:30 in the evening, Mr. Mayor. We all know that I've spent most of my life in local government, and we all know that 5:30 is the magic time for meetings. No one who works on a weekday, very few people can attend such a meeting. However, 19 people did turn up, and their responses were given to the CEO and his representative also there. The responses for the invitation to the public resulted in a schedule of comments that the council has seen in the documentation that's been presented to it in May. That was served up to council as an appendix by the CEO at CEO 10, appendix CEO 10 and 13. And Mr. Mayor, I should go through just a couple of the questions and answers that were given to you as part of the report to highlight what we believe is a real deficiency in the extent to which the public were consulted. And if I may, I'd like to go through just 4 or 5 questions. The first one was, what traffic engineering has been carried out to demonstrate how the development will improve pedestrian and vehicle safety issues? And the answer given to the council was, traffic implications will be addressed as part of the development application. Now, we all know that the property is sold before the development application comes in. So there's very little choice at that stage to do anything about it. Second question, what measures would be put in place to ensure public safety and alternative access gateway to the Big Swamp? And the answer was, any development of this lot is not expected to impact the Big Swamp. Now, that's an opinion that doesn't even address the question. Third question, the wildlife crosses Stewart Street. Where are they supposed to be confined to? That's the question from a ratepayer. The answer, acknowledge wildlife habitation is in the Big Swamp. Question 4. All residents surrounding, and I'll put in the word are, firmly against the rezoning of Lot 21. The reason I put in are is because the statement was being made without that, simply saying all residents firmly against the rezoning. Council should respect that. Now, it's hardly a question, but the response that went to Council was, Council will take all submissions into consideration during the decision-making process. Glib, to say the least. Question 5. The city should have already assessed how this would have impacted on fauna, safety of users, including bus stops, parking, bikes, animals, people, and heavy traffic. And you know what the answer was that came up to you? Noted. Noted. Now, I could go through many more, and I don't propose to. But what this says is that this is really not consultation at all. It's more like a blinding mask under the heading of consultation, where the true feeling of your affected community are either neglected or swept aside in words such as noted. We expect better than this, and your citizens are saying no. So 764, I think, people in the petition are saying no. And we hope you and the council will review this. It's a matter of some urgency. We know you're discussing it very shortly, but you need to, I believe, reread some of the notes that you have and take a hard look at what you're dealing with.
Thanks, Mr. Morgan. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councillors. The item that I primarily want to speak to is item 2 of what is recommended to council this evening, and that is that the petition will be considered as a submission to the consultation process for the proposed rezoning and sale of Lot 2189 Beach Road. In my view, that's an inadequate response to what has been a substantial petition by the community. There is no need for council to leave the question of the consideration of the petition to the meeting when it relates to the sale and rezoning of the land. There is no reason really why council tonight couldn't resolve to actually instruct the staff to terminate the rezoning process and the prospective sale, and to agree to the land remaining as part of the Big Swamp Reserve. And council has done this on previous occasions. When we had a land rationalisation committee and there was a sale of land proposed in Ashrose Place, when there was a similar response from the community there, who said that they really valued the land too much as both an access way to the beach and as an asset to their local community, council did resolve not to proceed with the proposed sale or rezoning of that land. The petitions that have been obtained in this case have been obtained over a very short period, but any petition that attracts some 700 signatures is a substantial petition. And I really do urge councillors, especially those who may not be here when the matter is going to be considered in a couple of months' time, to really express their view about the petition and what it was primarily asking for, and that is the preservation of this land as part of the Big Swamp Reserve. The Big Swamp is a very important wetland in a state sense. It's an enormously important wetland in the context of Bunbury itself, and not just Bunbury, but all the people who live in the greater Bunbury region. I note that there was some reference to the fact that some of the signatures to the petition don't actually live in Bunbury, but we want the residents of Greater Bunbury to come into all of our parks and recreation reserves, whether they are regional reserves like the Coast of Preston Regional Park, whether it's the aquatic park when that is developed, whether it's our beaches, or whether it's the Big Swamp. Anyone who visits the swamp on a regular basis knows how important it is to the local community, both in terms of the sanctuary that is provided to the wetland water birds that are there, and the breeding opportunities that it gives to them, but also to introduce their children to those native animals, wild animals that inhabit the swamp. And quite often you'll see women with prams and toddlers at foot pushing their way along the path in Chewett Street into the connecting paths that flow from that around the Big Swamp. And it's a very important issue in terms of the safety of those women pushing prams with toddlers afoot. If you take away a substantial part of that area and force the path to be close to Chewett Street itself, it will completely change the nature of that entry. Secondly, it's an open entry that identifies that the swamp is behind it. The more it is crowded out by residences, the less it will look like an entrance. And trying to preserve a wetland in what is basically becoming a very urban environment is not an easy task.
Mr. Smith, can you just finish off now, please?
I do urge councillors really to take heed of what is a substantial petition and vote tonight to instruct staff to actually withdraw the rezoning and propose sale.
Can I have a mover of the executive recommendation? Councillor Hayward, seconder. Councillor Prosser. Councillor Hayward.
Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. Just in terms of due process, I think that it is important that we go through the process. We do listen, and we've certainly appreciated the people coming along and speaking tonight. But in terms of just getting all of that information together, I think that the process that's underway is the right one, and that we should just stick with that and make sure that everybody gets a chance to have their say. Thank you.
Councillor Prosser. Anyone speaking against? Councillor Steck.
Thank you, sir. I'll simply say that the waterfront debate had about 840 signatures. That was one of the biggest issues in this community. And here we have the same occurrence. I'll moot an alternative motion.
Further speaker 4. Councillor Hayward. I'll put it all in favour. Please indicate. Those against? That's carried. So, ladies and gentlemen, just to be clear, the executive recommendation you see before you, points 1, 2 and 3, have now been adopted by this council. And we will be dealing with this matter in 4 weeks' time, which is 2 council meetings. And the petitioner organiser will be informed of that formally. Thanks very much for attending. If you wish to stay, please do. Otherwise, I'll give you time to orderly depart. You're most welcome to stay. Councillors, we're dealing with item 10.4.2. Mr. or Mrs. Lowe, I'll just wait until these folk come up and make yourself comfortable. So welcome along. You have 5 minutes between the two of you, so away you go.
I'd just firstly just like to thank the council for the opportunity to come here and present today. We are here in support of the executive's recommendation. We'd also just like to apologise for our naivety in this matter. It was never our intention to go against the building permit, and have learnt a lot from this exercise. I have a handout here of a graphic design of what we are hoping the wall to, or how we are hoping for it to finally look. Are there any questions?
There's no provision for questions, Mr. Lowe, but okay. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No.
Yeah, I think just as first-time owner builders, this is something that we've learnt a lot from. So, yeah, I think it's all been mapped out in the report as well. So.
Okay, I'll just say this, there's no need for you to apologise. Our officers deal with honest errors probably on a weekly basis, if not a daily basis, so don't feel put out by that. So thank you for coming along tonight. I'll now put it through our debating program. So have a seat. Someone prepared to move the recommendation? Councillor Steele? Is it Councillor Jones? Councillor, is there likely to be any debate on this? I'll put it all in favour. That's carried unanimously. There you go. Sorted. Okay, we have a confidential item, ladies and gentlemen, that we need to deal with. So at this stage, can I have someone move? We go behind closed doors. Councillor McCleary, Councillor Jones, all in favour? That's carried. Thank you. I invite you all to leave, and thank you for coming along.